Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. First of all, to all of you, I hope you had a great eco-friendly start to the new year and looking forward to be a healing impact on the planet for 2021. That's my vision and mission, to be a healing impact for Mother Earth. And I hope you can join me in that quest. This is Matthias GELBER, Green Man Matthias GELBER here, live on Sustainable PH. Great to see all of you in the new year. Maybe say hi. Let's see who is here already. Would be nice to see you saying hi in the comments section. Do we have only people from the Philippines watching us? Pinoy Scout TV is there. That's excellent. Very exciting topic. Hi, Ian. Ian is there as well. Ian Dolentas Campo. Nice to see you, Ian. Excellent. Jessica is there. Wonderful. Hi, Jessica. Scout Jessica. Wonderful. Great to see you all here. I want to review 2020. What have been the major environmental impacts or achievements as well? Many people are saying, and this is actually true, that our total carbon emissions went down. And a lot of you have seen it actually. The blue skies in Manila, other cities in other parts of the world, many places that have traffic problems, that have pollution problems. You cannot see the sky, the skyline properly. Suddenly in Metro Manila could see the mountains again. So this is the good news. We have actually seen that despite all the problems we have been facing, the economic hardship, the pandemic hardship, we have actually seen a glimmer of hope that suddenly some pollution dropped. But what is the long-term impact of that? So I will share with you a brief presentation first, and then later on, I'll welcome your comments, your questions. You can submit them already in the chat box as we go along. But let me share with you some observations about 2020, the major environmental impacts and potentially environmental achievements, and what we can expect for 2021. So this is my idea for today's session, that we look at those issues and that we learn a little bit from what happened in 2021 and how we can all together improve for 2022. So I will be pulling up my slides here, and let me give them in presentation mode. Now, effects of COVID-19 to the environment, 2020 review, and looking forward to 2021. This is from a blog, Venjage blog. You can see the link down there. I'm happy to share these slides with you. If anyone would like to have a copy of these slides, feel free to message me, and then I will share them with you. We have seen four major areas of impact: carbon emissions, waste, wildlife habitat, our biodiversity, and then energy. If you look at the first slide here, the impact of carbon emissions, that's maybe the biggest issue that we have read in the news, and I will go into that more into detail. In the US, we have seen 40% less domestic air traffic, 50% decrease in carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide is a very toxic gas that comes from cars. 41 or incomplete combustion if you have a fire or something like that. And as well, 41% decrease in peak traffic congestion. China as well, we have carbon emissions falling by 25%. In Europe, we have 67 million fewer air passengers. And let's look at impact on waste. Now, the waste collectors have faced additional problems. And just to make the packaging for all the shipped goods in the US, more than 1 billion trees have been felled or lost their life, unless some of the packaging was made, hopefully, from recycled materials as well. In Italy, there's been a 111% increase on consumer spend on packaged mandarins. So the packaging material, even here in our home, we have been able to obviously shop less in the supermarkets, in the malls, Some of them were closed. So there's been more online shopping. That's been a big trend, but it comes with the problem of additional wastage. Now, if we look at the impact on wildlife and habitat in the US, partially it was fake news that the wild turkeys came back to Oakland. They were already there, actually. Dolphins and swans in Venice. But some things really happened. Uh, and this is good news. In Japan, the deer wandered through the streets of Nara. Actually, they've always been even in the subway stations. But in Nara, the deers are there anyway. I saw them when I was there in Nara a long time ago. But in Chile, India, actually, in some cases, there was more wildlife appearing. But biodiversity is a critical issue. We are still losing loads of biodiversity, so we need to give the planet a breather. And then, obviously, power consumption, industry power consumption went down, but home power consumption went up. For example, in Europe, there was a 40% increase in broadband demand. Even here at my home, nobody is perfect. I'm supposedly the green man, but our electricity bill went up. My wife even said, honey, we need an additional aircon. Can I say no if she says, hey, our son is having rashes? So sometimes you need to be practical. But if available, get yourself, and if you can afford it, if you have the budget for it, get yourself an inverter aircon. Actually, in the Philippines, it takes less than a year to recover the extra money from the inverter aircon. It's a good investment. Now, let's look at the carbon emissions, and you can see it here. There has been a total drop on the bottom graph. You can see it, 1.6 gigatons of carbon dioxide were reduced. Globally, you can see it in the middle, the yellow one, especially April and May, massive drop in CO2 emissions compared to the year before. But there's one very important issue to take consideration of. You can see it on the top graph. The 2020 figures are far below the 2019, but CO2 emissions in total still went up. Even though here in India, 15% down, Brazil, 12% down, global 8% down, UK 15, Germany 15, those are encouraging figures, but in total, the carbon dioxide concentration, we call it the mean CO2 in the atmosphere, that's the one we need to look at, is still going up because we are still adding more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere than we are taking out and absorbing. So the global CO2 concentration is still going up in the atmosphere. In September 2020, it was 409.89. A year before September 2019, it was 407. Previously, 10,000 years, it was stable at 350 before we humans started the Industrial Revolution, where we dig out oil, coal, and gas out of the soil of the earth that took the earth millions of years to generate. And within a short period of time, we humans are using it. That's why the global average carbon dioxide in parts per million is going up and up. That's the real threat to the climate. These are the latest figures. It's about 413.75 parts per million. This is the scientific research center in Hawaii, where it's being analyzed, and in other parts of the world, like the Antarctic. So it's still going up, even though total CO2 emissions slightly dropped to the year before. And here in this statistic, it says 7%. That overall we are still adding the CO2 to the atmosphere, and most likely it is not going to last. And we have seen traffic jams in Metro Manila again coming back to before COVID times, plus additional issues like the pollution is there again. The view is not as good as it was before. Now, this article says that the US had a drop of 12%. The European Union 11%, India 9%, China only 1.7%. They overcame the COVID crisis very fast, even though it originated from that part of the world. Now, what have been the 6 ways the pandemic has changed sustainability? One point, wildlife trade has been a center of attention now because the imbalance that we have with the biodiversity and particularly the way wildlife is traded and being put into the markets has contributed to the origin of this problem. Meat industry has a big problem, animal welfare, standards found lacking, labor and human rights, particularly in some of the meat factories, there were some major outbreaks of infections very, very fast. The plastic recyclers, they are struggling because a lot of the plastic is now contaminated with single-use material. And, can you still recycle it even though there might be infected materials there? This is a big problem now. But one good news is there's a journey to net zero. A lot of countries, a lot of businesses have recommitted their pledge to achieve net zero carbon. This is really what we need. Once we have net zero carbon, then we are not increasing the CO2 levels anymore in the atmosphere, and then we are getting onto safer levels. What has happened this year is a slight drop in CO2 emissions compared to the year before, but we are still far away from net zero. Net zero means the additional CO2 going into the atmosphere is at the same level as the absorption from the forests, from the natural processes that nature has, like photosynthesis, in turning the CO2 into oxygen. So hopefully we have reached peak emissions. A couple of visions for 2021. These are all points from the eco business. The link is down in the slide. One thing that has happened is, number one, lenders are walking away from fossil fuels, coal and others. So governments and banks are starting to pull out. The Chinese government even pulled out from a coal-fired power plant in Kenya. And CIMB, for example, after they got a lot of pressure from NGOs, committed they will not be involved in any lending anymore for fossil fuel by 2040. That's maybe a long way away, but it's already starting to kick in now. And number four, Belt and Road is getting more eco-conscious, the activities that the Chinese government is doing because they committed to net zero. And green collar workers, a lot of governments are saying we need actually the green revival. So let me stop here and see what comments and inputs you guys have with regards to those issues. I would love to see any of your comments. I can see as well that, yeah, thanks, Mika. You are commenting. It's an interesting discussion. Yes, great, great. There is Lawrence there as well from Joshua Santo from Pinoy Scout. Excellent. Great to see you, Lawrence. Then we have the SSG National High School there. And we have, oh, wow, beautiful winds. Happy New Year from Long Beach, California. Is all we have in common. Please take care of our Mother Earth. Please send me a copy of all your pamphlets. Well, okay, Vince, I will do that. I will find you on Facebook and I will send you the slides that I did in PDF format. And you can download all the originals because I have all the links in there. So excellent. So now I'm really open for your questions and your comments. For example, Vince from Long Beach, if you have any questions on that, isn't it actually amazing? Everybody now thinks we are reducing CO2 emissions. That's great news. But actually the reality is we are still overall as a humanity, with all of our personal actions, the governments, the transportation, the factories, the power plants, the fuel that we are burning, we are still overall increasing the average carbon dioxide level in the atmosphere. So CO2 concentration in the atmosphere is still going up, even though the CO2 this year slightly dropped compared to the year before. But in total, we are still adding. So yeah, SSG Galanza National High School is commenting that they learned something, awakening. Happy to hear that. And Jules Carlo as well. Great. Happy to hear, Jules, that you are learning something new. And, you know, it's very, very important that we look at the science behind all of this, because we might hear those messages out there. Wow, CO2 or emissions have gone down. And if you live in Metro Manila, you know, it was beautiful to see during the lockdown that suddenly the skies were blue and the view was not polluted anymore. But the reality is, from a global perspective, we humans are still accumulating more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So the problem of climate change and rising temperature is still there. We have not solved that problem yet. We still need to continue working together. Now, there is a comment from Pinoy Scout TV. The citywide bans on fireworks and firecrackers did good. We woke up smoke-free New Year. I agree with you, actually. Even here in San Pablo City, I remember 2 years ago, I used my air quality monitoring device to measure the air quality. And at midnight, when all the firecrackers were going on, we had a huge level of PM 2.5. This is the small particles that is very bad for your lung. This year, I didn't detect it. I actually have my monitoring device outside. I'm going to monitor for the next few weeks what is going to be the development in terms of outdoor air quality. Then we have Jules Carlo, or we have Orly. Yeah, Jules Carlo first, and then Orly. What can you say about the status of renewable energy in different countries worldwide, but most important in the Philippines? What is my view on renewable energy? Yes, what is happening globally is that more and more countries are ramping up their percentage of renewable energy. I think in Germany it's already 25. There have been times where more than half of the energy in Germany came from renewables. But here in the Philippines, we have seen a big increase in solar. We have seen some wind power. But the Philippines traditionally has a lot of geothermal and some hydro, which is good news. So the percentage of renewables in the Philippines is actually much higher than it is in Malaysia. How did I find that out is very interesting. When I tried to calculate my carbon footprint in Malaysia, the kilowatt hour of electricity, you need to multiply it with 750 gram of carbon dioxide to get your carbon footprint figure. In the Philippines, it's only about 640. Why? Because the Philippines has a higher percentage of geothermal, hydro, and other renewables. So the average carbon footprint per 1 kilowatt hour in the Philippines is lower than Malaysia because of its higher level of renewables. But we need even more renewables. I myself, I'm not a friend of nuclear. Why? Because in Germany, I see we have loads and loads of problems with decommissioning of nuclear power plant, the nuclear waste and the cost of it. The German government told all the companies that own a nuclear power plant, please set 5 billion euro per plant aside for the cost of decommissioning. If we include that into the costing for the power, together with the problem of the radioactive waste and the risk, then I think renewables is not a good option, even though the operational carbon footprint of renewables is very low. But the whole life cycle carbon footprint, with all the problems of the uranium mining and the end of life disposal, is an issue. Okay, the next question is, Orly, very interesting question. Did cremation of COVID victims increase pollution globally? Now, it's a sad question as well. Let me state that here, you know, that this has happened with many, many people out there, and their families have suffered because in some cases, even, you know, the COVID victims automatically were cremated. The cremation of one person as a terms of actual carbon footprint is quite small. It's not a huge contribution. The burning of coal in coal-fired power plants or in cement kilns that is a huge volume of overall emissions. But even 10,000 people, it wouldn't be a very high level of emissions that would derive from it. I don't know, I haven't done the calculation, but in terms of its global impact, I think it's very limited. Then Lawrence, Joshua, what do you think should we do to drop the CO2 emission more amidst the pandemic? Very good question. Obviously, try and keep your electricity bill modest. As I said earlier on, now at the moment, I have an aircon here. This is my office. Thanks to my wife, I have a lot of nice plants. Sometimes when it's very hot and you're running a professional meeting, I am using the aircon. Now it's very cool. I don't use the aircon. I only have the fan switched on. And I have a inverter aircon. Now I know it's much more expensive to buy it and it's difficult for a lot of people to afford, but I recommend to do it. Try your best to get an inverter aircon because you usually recover it after a year already, the money. So this is one thing we can do. And I personally recommend all of you to make a pledge to make your life climate neutral. I have made that. At the end of each year, I calculate roughly my carbon footprint and the carbon footprint of the family. I'm still yet to do that. That's a part of my plan tomorrow. And then I buy carbon credits to make it climate neutral. But this year, I was much more lower carbon footprint than last year because of the fact that I have not been flying. I only flew once to India in January and once to Malaysia in February. Then March onwards, no more flying. So that was great for my carbon footprint. So that is something I highly recommend. Google UNFCCC, go climate neutral now. And then make a pledge as an individual to make your life climate neutral. Measure your carbon footprint, reduce your carbon footprint, and then buy some small carbon credits. For the average Filipino who might have a carbon footprint of 8 tons, you can buy that for $4 carbon credits to make yourself climate neutral. So I hope those were some useful comments. Now we have the Galanosa High School, National High School. What can you say about the excessive use of smoke emitting machines? Since we already acquired Industrial Revolution, should we stop using it or should we just lessen it? When you refer to smoke emitting machines, I guess you're referring mainly to industrial machines and to vehicles on our roads. Now, what we see every day is the vehicles on our roads, like the jeepneys, the tricycles, and let's say those who have LPG tricycles, like we sometimes, I don't have a car. We don't have a car as a family. And our tricycle driver that we normally hire has an LPG tricycle. That's already great. If it's an electric tricycle or an electric jeepney, that would even better because it would improve our inner city air quality. But then it depends on where does the power come from. If the power comes from a coal-fired power plant to load up your e-jeepney, then it's still not really green. But if you have the power from geothermal, from hydro, from wind or solar, then it's much more green. All of them still have a carbon footprint. When you build a geothermal power plant, when you build a hydro, there is a significant environmental impact on biodiversity. The construction phase itself, sometimes it requires displacement of natural habitats or even people. So, I'm not a fan of gigantic large-scale hydro. So we need to as well look at those environmental impacts. But the actual power usually has a carbon footprint of less than, 50 to 100 gram of carbon dioxide, whereas a coal-fired power plant in comparison is 800 to 1,000 gram, so 10 times higher. So these machines, especially the vehicles, we should shift to LPG and to electric, but powered with renewables. And in an industrial sense as well, we should actually avoid coal-fired power plant, coal-fired other factories, oil-based combustion, for example, cement production. There is a very eco-friendly cement production in the Philippines, Big Boss Cement. It uses the lahar from Mount Pinatubo. That should become the norm rather than the original cement plant, which uses loads of coal to burn the limestone, the calcium carbonate, or there was an alternative. Some of the waste from the famous waste plant in Quezon City, the one where there was this problem many years ago. I cannot remember the name of it, but they started to divert some of the plastic waste and chop it into small pieces and then supply it to the cement instead of coal. So they were using that. So that's definitely an improvement. So now the next question, Mika, or let's go Jules first. The Philippines recently experienced devastating typhoons. Typhoon Olosis. Do you think it's a sign that climate change is getting worse? Now, what we have to look at is how has our climate behaved in the past versus now? And the frequency and the impact of typhoons is getting more severe. I mean, we had Typhoon Haiyan 5+ years ago, the most devastating one here in the Philippines. And we have seen that all over the world, that the reliability of climate patterns is no more the same as it was 40, 50 years ago. When I was a kid in my barangay in Germany, in my small village, I had 3 to 4 months of snow. If there was stuff coming from the sky in January or February, it was more snow. This reliable climate pattern is no more there in my village. The same here in this part of the world. I used to live in Malaysia for 15 years. Same there. People had very clear rainy seasons, dry seasons. Now, that reliability is no more there. Yes, I will say that the lack of reliable climate pattern, increased frequency and severity of devastating typhoons as experienced here in the Philippines or in places like Bangladesh or other parts of the world is a clear sign that due to human interference, 7 billion humans on the planet and our model of more and more growth, we have put the balance that we enjoyed for more than 10,000 years when we had 350 parts per million CO2 concentration, that balance is gone. Yes, there are natural fluctuations that have an impact. Yes, when Mount Pinatubo blew up, that had an impact on temperature and climate, but it's mainly the human influence of us digging out all of the oil and the gas and the coal and pouring what it took Mother Nature millions of years in a short period of time into the atmosphere. That is what is putting that reliable climate that we have enjoyed out of balance. Yes, I agree. Now, next, Mika Grace Regalo. Hi, Mika. Should we encourage students to further study in finding solutions for the substitute of non-renewable energy? Yes. Students should study based on their passion and then help with finding new solutions. It might be technological solutions, like even better, lower carbon renewable energy. It might be financial solutions. If you love money, study green finance. That is the new trend. Green finance means money that funds that technology to be used large scale. Sometimes we have the technology already, Mika, but we don't have the money to take it to the next scale, because in many cases, it is the traditional energy and the big traditional companies that have the money. And they will only invest in renewables when they see other people making money from it. So we need not just technology students, we need the finance students, we need the accounting students, We need the management people. If you can manage a big business and then you can make that business green, that will have a gigantic impact. And you know what? The great news is now all companies, especially listed companies, have to go sustainable. Otherwise, they will be punished by the investors. Loads of big investors internationally have already said they will use ESG criteria to determine where their money will go. ESG stands for environment, social, governance. I am the ESG advisor to the Philippine Stock Exchange. And you know what we are working on? We are working on criteria as well that will be used in the Philippines. There is already a guidance document issued by the Securities and Exchange Commission in the Philippines to guide companies on sustainability reporting. Now, if you are a communications student and if you can become very good in helping companies with marketing and communications, you might be the person to help those listed companies to improve their sustainability reports and to integrate it into the operations of those companies. So we need students, we need to encourage students to look at all the wide scope of topics and become change agents and experts that can heal the planet through the topic and field that they are passionate about. No point in having somebody that likes arts and creative design study engineering renewable energy just to make a green contribution. They can make an amazing green contribution by becoming creative designers for eco-friendly solutions, for eco-branding, for the sustainability reports of those Filipino companies that are pushing the boundaries. Check out the sustainability report of First Gen and their green power business. Then you will see some amazing designs on the front of their sustainability report, trying to wake us up on the reality of climate change. Yes, exactly. As the summary of Sustainable PH, Mika Grace, if you love money, study green finance. I was on a call last week with some friends in Bangladesh. One of them is based in Glasgow now, studying green finance. This is a big new theme. This is an amazing future opportunity. Okay, next question here. We have Lawrence. Yeah. What do I think about the government to prevent the extinction of animals since today that we're in a pandemic? Yeah. We need the protection of our biodiversity. We need to protect especially those forests that are still intact, that have the original biodiversity. One of my friends, my good friend Johnson, he is one of the directors at Boyson, and he is one of the directors at the Philippine Eagle Foundation. And the Eagle Foundation found out that the endangered Filipino eagle, the numbers are usually in line with how much we can protect the original forests. If we don't protect and enhance the original forest, the very tall trees, I think if a forest expert would say the dictaperop, I can't remember it. Guys, excuse me. I have a master in environmental science, but I've become much more of a communications person nowadays. So I don't know all these scientific expressions anymore. We don't need to be perfect, but what you're passionate about, you can use and you can help the planet. So we need to really preserve those deep biodiverse places in the Philippines and grow new forests, create new places of biodiversity. Even we can do it with green business. I have 4 hectares of biodiverse forest in Panama. I bought that 15 years ago as a green pension system. And it has a lot of animals in there because different tree species were planted. Not a monoculture, but diverse tree species. Okay, next one. Jules, will pursuing engineering be a good career to pursue in terms of sustainability issues going in now and in the future. Yes, engineering is great, because if you know how things work, you can optimize them from a sustainability point of view. It can be engineering from a machinery point of view. It can be engineering even from a building point of view, green building, building engineers. Those are the people that might specify what machine is needed. And you might even innovate with machines. Engineering is definitely great. But, all fields are great, because in all fields, we need engineers, we need experts, we need financial experts, we need creative experts, we need marketing experts, we need designing experts, and then we have as well my friend TZ from Malaysia. Bamboo, the way to go. I totally agree with you, TZ. And this is an amazing opportunity for the Philippines and for Malaysia, because in our countries here, TZ is watching from Malaysia tonight, bamboo grows so well. And even if you chop bamboo, it regrows again. That's the amazing thing. You don't need to replant the bamboo. You harvest the bamboo and it will regrow. It uses very little water. It absorbs a lot of carbon dioxide and turns it into oxygen through photosynthesis. And you can use bamboo for construction. You can use it for house building. You can make panels out of it. You can make floors out of it. I think there will be loads of bamboo entrepreneurs in the future that will heal the planet and make good, eco-friendly money at the same time. This is one of the mega future trends that we should really focus on, and that we should, that we can turn into opportunities, really. So, yeah, I think we covered all of our questions. And Remy Del Carmen, Remy is as well greeting from Langkawi. I'm not sure whether you're still on, Remy, but great to see that we have more people from Malaysia there. Excellent. And Jules is saying, how true is the fact that bamboo absorbs 50% more carbon dioxide than trees? I cannot give you the exact figure, Jules. I would have to Google now. So I think we can find the answer on Google or on other search engines. There's as well a search engine that is eco-friendly. It actually plants trees. I can't remember what is the name of the search engine, but maybe I can share it with you next time. Or maybe somebody can Google a search engine that plants trees and share the link down here. So yeah, bamboo is amazing in absorbing loads and loads of CO2. And actually, I think that it's 50% or 100% more effective in terms of the space that it covers and its absorption rate. We should definitely plant a lot more bamboo, and we should scale up bamboo with commercial plantations. I spoke the other day with an American guy who is based in Silicon Valley, and he has set up a company that wants to build skyscrapers from bamboo. And they are already setting up a huge factory in Mindanao and huge bamboo plantations in Mindanao with these gigantic bamboo trees that are biggest bamboo species in the world. It grows super well here in the Philippines. So bamboo is the way to go. Then Ian is asking, conserving the environment of a country, tropical, has only dry and wet season and prone to typhoon. I'm not sure I exactly understand what you mean, but you're referring to our climate here. I mean, the climate here that we have in the Philippines, what about the conservation strategies? I think that we need to work additionally with businesses to restore some lost biodiverse areas in the country. And we need to create a system where if people invest into preservation, that we can find ways to make it work for them financially as well. At the moment, the model that people have in mind is the only way that we can really make money is from cutting everything down and turning it maybe into a monoculture. But we need agroforestry. We need forests together with low environmental impact agriculture. We need new models, new innovations. There are several people that are working on such models here in the Philippines. Again, I can't remember the names. I just know my friend Cherry Atilano, who's my Facebook friend. She runs the company Agrea in Marinduque, and they have just started in another part of the Philippines, and they are creating as well models of sustainable agriculture and high yield agriculture, biodiverse agriculture. So I think as well we need innovation. Hey, yes, Jules, thank you so much for helping me out. It's Ecosia, and Jules has been using it already for 1 year now. If you use Ecosia, then your search will contribute to trees being planted. Isn't that beautiful? And you know, most of the money that this company makes, you can Google, they are making a lot of money. Most of that money goes down to actually sponsoring trees rather than profits for the people who have started the company. Beautiful model. Now, Mika is asking, good researches that covers the topic of sustainability that a student can further their study and expand. Yes, I think, you know, we need to do research that is very practical. For example, research on what we can make from bamboo would be a very good topic that could be related to potential commercialization. And research about what can we do with the material that we have in abundance in the Philippines. Now, coconut fiber would be a great research topic. We have a lot of coconuts here in the Philippines. We have the tree trunks, we have the leftover biomass from the coconut after you've been drinking it. What can we turn that coconut fiber in? I'm not wearing my shirt, but I have a Filipino-made coconut fiber shirt as well. And other innovation. What are the waste streams that we have here in the Philippines? We have a lot of unsorted household waste that is unutilized. Can this be turned into fuel, alternative fuel? There are already technologies, open source technologies on the internet. Maybe your students can recreate that and test it in a local setting. Can they, on a small scale, use some of those open source machinery? There's an open source machinery for plastic reuse and recycling. So there's a lot of stuff out there. The closer it is to the real problem, like the waste or the biomass material that we have, and then commercial applications, the more realistic it might be that this research actually turns into some real project or application that can later on be used. So yeah, I think we have covered great ground. I hope that you learned something new. I will say goodbye for today, and I wish you a lot of passion, enthusiasm to heal the planet through the work that you do. As I mentioned, when we search on the internet through Ecosia, the studies that you do, the work that you do, your life at home, in every aspect, we can contribute to healing the planet. So thank you very much. Salamat. Happy New Year to all of you, and see you again in 2 weeks' time. And in 2 weeks' time, you don't want to miss it. The current reigning Miss Earth Philippines, Roxy Bayins, and Miss Earth Water Global is joining us in 2 weeks' time. So get ready. It will be an amazing show. And tell all your friends. We will make a poster, share the poster exactly 2 weeks from now, 8 p.m. Saturday must be. We have the 2nd today, plus 14 should be Saturday the 16th. And Happy New Year to all of you. Thank you so much. See you again in 2 weeks' time. Bye-bye.